Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Campfire Stories. Jay Smiley here, your tour guide into the strange, the unknown, the terrifying. Tonight, I submit another story to the Grimm Society. It came for us in the night. Have you ever run from something so fast that it seemed like you should have escaped, but then realized that it's still right behind you? This night was like any other. I had just gotten home from a long day of work and was hoping to find some food in the fridge, but of course we were all out. At that time, me and my roommate Dave mostly survived off frozen pizza, top ramen, and the occasional fast food for our general dietary needs. But tonight, we were fresh out of pizza and ramen, so it was about that time to head out to get us some sustenance. It was around midnight when we left, so most of the stores in the area were already closed for the night. So the plan was simple: go to Jack in the Box and pick up something good. It was a good 10 miles away from where we lived, and after driving out to get our burgers and fries while on our way back home, that is when Dave turned to me. He looked at me straight in the eyes with a determined glare and told me that we should pull off into this weird, empty-looking parking lot. He said it would be so we could eat our food while it was still hot, but unknowingly to me, the real reason was Dave's ulterior motive. He had it in his head that this place was something special in some way, and he wondered just what this strange building was. It had always bothered him for some reason, and tonight he wanted to find out why. To me, it was a good idea. Burgers and fries always did taste better fresh, so I pulled into what looked like an empty parking lot in front of what seemed like a warehouse building. It had blacked out windows, and there was no name or sign on it, not like any other building or business in town, all of which were clearly labeled with names. There was also a large, intimidating-looking brick fence with barbed wire placed on the top that was around 10 foot tall or so. It was wrapping around the entire backside of the building, and there were street lights that were around the fence and in front of the building that was lighting up the entire area. I had parked the truck facing away from the building, and we ate our dinner. As we ate, we spent most of the time guessing what kind of building this was. As we sat there chewing down on our burgers, Dave would blurt out insistently that he thought that the building may be some kind of secret government facility because of the blacked out windows and the fact that a few days ago he had seen a few men in black suits and black SUVs that looked like some kind of federal agents or something like that. I thought that he was just acting stupid and told him that it was probably just a normal warehouse. So Dave decided to prove his point by getting out of the truck for some evidence, and he decided to walk up to one of those blacked out windows and take a peek inside. As he did so, I could clearly see him through the rearview mirror, and I was catching him the entire time through the mirror, watching him as he went. He got closer to that window, walking right under a street light on his way that casted a shadow of him on the ground. The shadow was attached to his feet. It moved as he moved, then faded away as he left the beam of light. It was a normal shadow, his shadow. The window was right next to where the wall and the building joined together. I watched as he peeked through that window. He seemed fine in general, just a bit overly curious. But then, all of a sudden, he stopped. What he was doing. Dave was frozen like a startled animal would be if they saw a predator ready to strike. Slowly, he started to back up while turning his head and peering up towards the top of the wall. Then I heard his screams. He screamed as loud as I'd ever heard anyone scream before. I watched as he turned around frantically and ran back to the truck as fast as his legs would carry him. As he ran towards me, I could feel my anxiety start to build. I was desperately trying to figure out what the hell he was running from, trying the whole time to spot whatever it was in the mirror. I figured it was more than likely a night security guard trying to chase us out of there or something, but I saw no one behind him. I saw him run under the streetlight, and his shadow passed by on the ground as it had before. He was running towards me. I could see him in the mirror and could hear him screaming, "Start the car, man! It's right behind me! Start the car!" So I did. I fired that engine up while never taking my eyes off of him through the mirror. The whole time I thought he must be pranking me, or that maybe he was running from security or something along those lines. I thought this until I saw the look of sheer terror in his face and heard the sound of desperation in his voice. That is when I realized that he was definitely not messing around with me. He was terrified. Then, out of nowhere, I saw the second shadow. After Dave had run underneath that streetlight and cast his shadow, that is when I saw it. He was almost back to the truck when I saw this shadow being formed on the ground behind Dave. The shadow looked and moved in the same way that Dave's did, except for the fact that it was not attached to Dave. I couldn't understand what was creating the shadow, but I was positive that it was not Dave. It was something else, something following him, something I couldn't see. I could only see its shadow. Dave flung the door open and screamed out, "Go, man, go, 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 drive, it's coming!" I was already on the gas pedal as soon as I heard his doors slam shut. The tires squealed and we sped out of that parking lot and into the main road. We got about a block away when I came to my senses and slowed down, trying to do the speed limit. I was figuring that we had escaped from whatever it was we were running from, but still I could hear Dave start to panic. As the car slowed down, he was looking intensely out at the rearview mirror and out behind us through the back window. I turned to Dave and yelled at him, asking him what the hell all that was about. But all Dave could do was scream out, "Drive faster, man, faster! It's coming! I saw a monster out there!" He was shouting so loudly, then all of a sudden he stopped mid-sentence and started screaming out at the top of his lungs, "Oh shit, man, drive faster! It's right behind us!" But how could that be? How could it still be behind us? As I said this, I tried looking through the rearview mirror again to try to see something back there, but I didn't see anything. At this point, I really did think that Dave was trying to play games with me. I turned to Dave impatiently and yelled out that I don't see anything. "Go, just go, it's catching up to us! Shit, man, it has fucking wings! It's in the air, it's flying over us! Go faster! Go, it's gonna land right on us!" At this point, I was almost certain that Dave must be messing with me, but something was strange. He still looked so serious and scared. He was screaming his head off and sounding like a crazy person. Then I saw him quickly get down on the floor. He got down on the floor of that truck and was taking cover, but from what? Then, boom! Something large hit the roof of that truck and hit it hard. The whole thing indented in, and I watched as the windshield completely cracked. As this happened, I could hear a horrible high-pitched shriek sound off from whatever it was that was up there. This all jolted me. I put the pedal down to the floor, swerving left and swerving right. I must have been doing 90 miles per hour when I heard a sound that sounded like claws scraping into the metal. Then all of a sudden, I heard it fall from the roof. As it fell, it hit the tailgate hard, and when it hit the road, it let out another horrible shriek that started to fade into the distance as I sped away. I drove as fast as I could, blowing through streetlights, praying that we would see another car, a cop, anything that would help us. But there was no one. We were alone. I watched as Dave got back up and started peering out back towards the back of the window. I heard the horrible words come again. "It's coming back!" Dave turned and saw that we were about to pass by a graveyard and grabbed me, screaming out in panic, "There, man, go there, go to the graveyard, it's blessed ground!" I didn't understand why he wanted us to go into that graveyard, but he sounded so certain that it somehow meant some kind of safety away from this thing. So I did as I was told. I turned and drove up through that gate and onto the graveyard road. Got to the end of the road, slammed on the brakes, and parked. All I could think of was that I had just made a horrible mistake. That we were now trapped and that thing was still out there, somewhere. I could still hear the horrible shrieking outside. It sounded like it was coming from every direction. Then it started to fade away. It faded into the distance until it was gone. We sat there in that graveyard, planted in our seats, white-faced and silent as a grave. until the sun came up over the horizon. Once it did, we both got out of that truck and looked at the damage that was done. The entire roof was dented in, the windshield was cracked, and it had deep gouges in the metal that looked like claw marks. They were clearly visible, and so was the huge dent at the top of the tailgate. Whatever it was big, and had clearly landed on the roof. Dave would later tell me that it looked like some kind of giant, monstrous bat creature with huge claws and bright red glowing eyes. I never saw it with my own eyes, and I'm glad that I never did, because if I had, then those red eyes would probably have been the last thing that I would have ever seen. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you won't miss out on more campfire stories. And tune in next time. We upload 2 times a week every week. And if you have a story that you would like to submit for a future episode, make sure to email it to us at braddahsgrimm@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, stay smiley, everyone.